Hi and welcome to my Lightroom catalog. I wanted to show you how these Love Color Lightroom profiles work. They also work in Adobe Camera Raw in exactly the same way, as you can see in another video. And in my last video I showed you how I apply the color profiles to RAW files. Now I would usually do this, that is apply the color profile to a RAW file only in the case if I am not going to be opening the file in Photoshop, because once you open the file in Photoshop you bake in all of these settings that we've done. So rather than bake in any color choices, any color grading choices that I may have made, I would rather keep colors neutral, do the retouching, have the file plop back in Lightroom right next to the RAW file. As you can see here, this is my unretouched file, and all I have done is just a little bit of white balance, some tiny bit of exposure and shadows and highlights work, nothing else. I haven't done anything else in Lightroom. So no curves, no color grading, nothing else. Very, very simple. And you can see I've done exactly the same on this image up here, this one here, and I've chosen this one to retouch. This is my retouched file. So no color adjustments have been made. I have done a little bit of liquify on the hair. I've retouched the skin. I've kept all of that nice texture there. I've done some dodging and burning to sculpt her a little bit. And now we're ready to apply the final color grade. So this is our master file. This means that if I decide to change my mind, maybe do a black and white instead, have a totally different look in the future, I have my master file here waiting for me. So this is the PSD, and this is actually in layers. So I'm going to apply the color profile virtually on top of the layered PSD file, and that only gets, let's say, confirmed when we go to export it as a JPEG with that particular color profile. So I hope I'm not confusing you. It's very, very simple. So let's go back to our image here. Now, in order to do this, we need to go to the develop module. So let's just click develop. We can see all of our changes here, and we can see actually that I hadn't realized this, but what I've done is I've actually applied a few little changes here in Lightroom onto the retouch file. So in order to just see the color profile, how it works completely, I've reset that. So nothing, this is the PSD file that has been retouched with nothing else. So I'm glad I caught that. And now we can go and take our pick of color profiles. So let's take a look. Now here we have a sneak peek of volume 3. Let's take a look at the black and whites. And we can see how easy it is to just preview the ones that look good and make our choice. Now let's say I really love these warm tones. Let's go for Grace. There we go. Now you can just adjust the amount. If we take it down to 0, we're left with a simple grayscale conversion. And the black and white effect is on top of that, and you can choose the degree. I would not recommend going over 100, honestly speaking. If you do go over 100, make it very, very minimal, because you can see we're starting to lose the detail in the shadows. So I would put this at around maybe 80%, and there we go. Let's look at the before and after. Now let's just say that we want to keep a black and white version, and now we want to experiment with another color version. All we do is create a virtual copy. Okay, and let's reset that virtual copy. So now we've got our black and white here, and we've got a virtual copy of our master file. Let's play around with, in fact, let's do a couple of virtual copies so that we can Let's do another one. Okay, so you see this little corner edge turned up here. That's showing that these are virtual copies. So now we've got 3 virtual copies of our PSD file, layered PSD file. And this means that we can experiment freely and then compare the color grading and see what we want to do. Let's take a look at our colors. So you see this is our retouched file with no color grading. And all we do is hover over and we can see which one we prefer. Now, these color profiles have been developed on various different skin tones and lighting conditions, and this means that some of the profiles will work beautifully for this color palette, for example, in this skin tone. Others will work better on, let's say, high key pictures. Some are very traditional, very, very classic, like muted. You can see I'm just adding a little bit of depth and contrast. Muted works beautifully with pretty much everything. Others are much more, let's say, experimental, like for example Sandstorm. This has more of a fashion look. It's got some teals and greens in the highlights and some magentas in the shadows, which is kind of a look that is popular in some fashion images right now. But if you think it's too much, you see all you do is just bring down that slider. Again, be careful going above 100, and you can make it as subtle as you like. You'll get to know very quickly which are your favorites, and then you simply click the star in the corner to take it to your favorites, and that means that it goes right at the top in your favorites file. So here are all my favorites. And you'll quickly learn which ones look good with which kind of images, which ones will brighten up the images and the skin tones, which ones darken and give depth, and which ones have cooler shadows, which ones have warmer tones. You'll very quickly figure out which ones you like. Now this is great because this really pulls out the blues in the image. Technicolor Dream is much more, this works quite well with this sort of image because of the colors and the disco makeup. Tightrope has beautiful green tones in the shadows. Let's have a look at volume 2. Now, if somebody says, what should I get, volume 1 or volume 2? The answer is both. I use all of them, and I also use volume 3, which is coming very soon. I'm just doing some final tests on volume 3. Some are much more contrasty, for example, Golden Hour, and they tend to work better on RAW files for that reason, because RAW files tend to need a lot more punch than retouch ones that already have a raw adjustment to them. So you might find that you really like Golden Hour, but it just needs to be brought down a little bit, and that's because it tends to work better on raw files, but can just be brought down for retouch files. Let's look. I'm just giving you a kind of an overview of all of the different looks and how well they work in portraits. As you can see, I've created them always using people, always using portraits, skin tones. So I haven't used them, I'm sure they would work beautifully on landscapes, but the benefit of building these on portraits means that they are designed for portraits and wedding. They're designed for people. So Regina's great fun. I love to use Regina, especially just to give depth to the skin tones and bring up the blues. So Regina works really well on skin, and makeup like this or blue eyes works really well. Storybook is another one which I love, but often on JPEGs or PSD files, and it just needs to be brought down slightly. As you can see, there are very few that are not working for this image. Let's just have a sneak peek on volume 3. Ballerina is glorious for certain images. I don't like it on this one because it's muting the blues too much. This one is great fun for just bringing like a desaturated, darker skin tones. Forget Me Not is a variation on that. Goddess is another very, very contrasty one, so use in lower doses. And remember, you can always go back to, so this is Harmony. This one also brings out some clarity. You can always adjust these settings as well. So you can see how flexible they are. So I'm going to pick this one, and let's pick another profile for the next virtual copy. Okay, there's Atomic. Let's choose something with a bit more colour. Okay, beautiful. And then let's choose another one. Okay, Naked. Let's choose Naked. And now we can select these and just take a look and see which one we prefer. So these are the profiles used at full strength on the same portrait. And let's just do another one to show the original. So let's make another virtual copy, and let's reset that. So this is our master copy, let's say our neutral copy, so our before, if you will. And let's take a look. So we've got the before at the end here, and these are the color profiles that I've chosen in the black and white. All of these are at full strength, but you can lower the intensity if you wish.